Welcome back to Motorland Aragón. It's round 5 of the FIM CEV Repsol. It is absolutely scorching out there, and it's time for the big one, the Moto3 Junior World Championship. 15 laps at this 5-kilometre anti-clockwise circuit, 7 left-hand corners, 10 of which are right. And this is going to be very, very exciting. A 50-metre elevation change we have here at Motorland Aragón as well. It really is quite an undulating circuit, despite the TV cameras perhaps not doing it so much justice. Of course, it is not only a time for great racing here this weekend at Aragón, it is a time for reflection as well, because a lot of these riders up and down the field missing, of course, their dear colleague Andreas Perez, who sadly lost his life in an accident in Barcelona the last time we were out in the CEV Repsol a month ago. So they will not only be racing on, of course, to try and fight for the championship, but of course racing on in memory of Andreas Perez. And there was a minute's silence down on the grid earlier on this morning for the Andreas Perez, and there was such an outpouring of emotion and such great support for the young 14-year-old. So it really is going to be a very exciting race in a lot of different aspects, but also, as we said, a race definitely in memory of the young Spaniard. So let's see how we get on. So to the action then, and it's a big surprise actually as well, because it is a Realia Avintia Academy bike on pole position in the form of Barry Boutus. And this is the young Belgian rider who managed to make the step up to the European Talent Cup full-time in 2018. Has been very impressive so far this year in the European Talent Cup. He made the step up actually to the Moto3 Junior World Championship as he turned 14 years of age at Le Mans, and has qualified on pole position in his second ever event.
He's doing pretty well, isn't he?
Not bad at all,
Seems to take to everything like a duck to water. Straight in and fast straight away. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in the race. Obviously a one-off lap, very impressive, but it's a different feat to stringing a whole load of them together and obviously racing alongside everyone else at the same time. But yeah, really, really impressed with him so far this season, from that first win, and everything he's done really so far has been something to impress. So yeah, really, really great season so far for Boutus, wherever he's been racing. Yeah, certainly so. It's going to be interesting to see how the young Belgian fares over the course of this weekend. You can see his teammate there, that's number 99 of Carlos Tatai. So it's going to be interesting to see how we go, because of course we've only got the 2 Realia Avintia Academy bikes on the grid here this weekend. And we did of course have Vicente Perez earlier on this season, but he's now made the step up to the World Championship to replace Livio Loy at the Realia Avintia team. So only 2 riders on the grid. Just saw a flash of one of the Onchu brothers there. That was Can Onchu, the number 61, just going through there. And both of those Onchu brothers, of course twins, celebrated their birthday the other day. They turned the grand old age of 15. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, isn't it? You can kind of believe it of Dennis, who obviously is, they don't look similar at all, they're not identical twins. Dennis a lot smaller, shorter hair, just generally looks like, it's almost a little bit surprising he has turned 15, whereas Chanonchu looks more like he's about 21.
He looks older than me. Yeah,
really long, nice, quite wavy hair, bit of a rock star look going on there, and an awful lot taller than his brother. So yeah, but obviously both new to this championship this year. Obviously we've got Chan leading the way in the Red Bull Rookies Cup at the moment, and then Dennis is the reigning Asia Talent Cup champion, and also I think he's the closest challenger to his brother in Red Bull Rookies as well now, after the most recent race weekend for them. So yeah, they've really got a lot of promise and yeah, kind of momentum certainly from other championships behind them at the moment. And this weekend they seem to have taken, I can't speak, quite a step forward and really had a solid qualifying here, so it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, it is going to be very exciting to see how these runners and riders fare. We should mention as well, actually, qualifying yesterday, well, it was quite cool, I say quite cool in the morning, it was still 24 degrees, so quite warm as a matter of fact, but it got a lot hotter in the afternoon, meaning that times did not riders did not improve upon times, I should say, in the latter part of the weekend. So on Saturday especially, it was very difficult in qualifying, so a lot of the faster times came in the early session. Out of 40 riders that would be on the grid, only 6 improved their time in the afternoon. So it did mean that Barry Boutus' time in the morning session was a bit faster than his time in the afternoon session, therefore he qualified, of course, on pole position. So here is Barry Boutus then, the young Spaniard, the Realia Avintia Academy team. As you can see there, 1 pole position for Barry Boutus there. No wins, no podiums. So will he be able to perhaps make a bit of a change here this weekend? The Belgian rider, very, very quick on his day and has had some very impressive performances so far in 2018, namely in the European Talent Cup. But he would love to be able to be fighting in contention for that race victory here this afternoon.
Definitely. Just a quick aside there. I'm not sure how they can see that laptop screen with this amount of sun.
We can't see anything here in the commentary box, and we're not even directly in it.
We actually have part of our window kind of blanketed over to try and help with the glare there. So pretty impressive for those guys on the grid looking through the data. Obviously, their final checks before the race. Amazing they could even see what they're doing. But Baltus, yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, now with this pole here in this class. Obviously, he's a newcomer to it, but he obviously feels very at home on the bike straight away. But he's not got that much experience of running at the front with them, so we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, especially because the kind of Pagliani would obviously be the guy you'd expect to really have set the pace so far. He often has throughout this season so far, but just on the second row for him. So there's a bit of an opportunity there, I think, and maybe a few guys will feel there is.
Absolutely. Well, Fran, you've been outside most recently of both of us. So what's the temperature like outside? Is it as scorching as they're saying it is?
It genuinely is very hot, to the point where going down to Parc Fermé, you leave the air-conditioned part of the building to the non-air-conditioned part before you even actually go outside. And even that first transition is quite painful for me. Being a British, very pale person, I don't take well to it.
No, quite. Well, it's about 34 degrees out there and thereabouts, according to the app on my phone at the moment. So it is pretty warm, which is going to be a bit of an interesting thing because it wasn't this hot yesterday. It was actually this hot on Friday. So these riders have had a bit of running in these temperatures, so they'll know where to go in terms of tyre strategy and setup, for example, because, of course, the bike, it sounds really silly, but a couple of degrees difference can be the difference between your tyre working and your tyre just going completely off the edge and just not performing in any way, shape or form. Yeah,
it really can. Obviously, there's quite big operating windows, but the margins can then be quite brutal sometimes. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think. Like you said, they had a bit of experience in the temperature, but not sure. It's very hot, and it's a pretty long race, and it's a long lap, and it's quite a difficult track, quite technical. So we'll have to see, but yeah, I don't know. I think it should be quite an exciting one here.
Well, despite, of course, the hot temperatures, this man here actually improved his time yesterday. One of only 6 riders, as we said, to be able to do so. 15-year-old Sergio Garcia. You can see there quite a mixed bag of a season he's had. He's very much in contention for the title this year if things go his way. He has got a bit of a deficit to make up, but don't count him out. He's on 61 points, 38 points adrift of the championship leader, this man here, Ralf Fernandez. But anything can happen, and there's still quite a few races left to the end of the season. Here is Ralf Fernandez, and you can see him there with the Andreas 77 sticker on the tail unit of his bike. That's a really nice touch there for the 17-year-old. Of course, Ralf Fernandez having had quite a good season so far. You can see there 3 wins, a podium finish, and of course now he's had that World Championship experience once again, replacing Darren Binder at Sachsenring last time out.
Yeah, definitely. It was very, very impressive from Fernandez at the Sachsenring, I think, as well. And it's very, very nice and really nice thing to see that the Angel Nieto team allowed him to go and race with that Red Bull KTM team. Obviously, rival outfits on many stages, but it's great that he got the opportunity to do that. He very much took it with 2 hands and impressed a lot. But 3rd place, maybe. I think him and Pagliani probably would have expected to really have made a gap and been pole and 2nd here, but we'll see how it works out. Obviously, a lot can change over the course of a race with the 2 long straights here, so should be an interesting one.
One man who's really impressed me so far this weekend is this man here, Riccardo Rossi for the Husqvarna JHK Leglise team. Now, this is his best qualifying by far so far this season. You could see there are a few top 10 finishes, but a couple of really low finishes in this season as well. Again, a mixed bag of a championship so far for him this year, but seems to have gone quite well so far this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think he will be looking to just keep nice and calm at the start and turn that good position into qualifying position, obviously, into a solid position at the start of the race.
Well, this here is Agora then, the Japanese rider. He is in 6th position on the grid, and this is an onboard lap with Chara, his teammate in the Asia Talent Cup. So going down in towards that first corner, a very, very slow 90-degree left-hander. Down into 2nd gear, you flick it through there, and it's very, very tight through there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's quite a challenge for those guys to really get through 1 and 2 as it is here, with so many on the grid, like we saw in the European Talent Cup as well. So many people on the grid, and those first 2 turns are quite a challenge. And you can see we're closing up on the bike in front now, on board with Chara.
And this is really interesting because this is where it sort of begins to open up quite significantly in this middle pass of the lap. Just going through into the right-hander of turn number 7. Now you can see that you can't really see the corkscrew, the reverse corkscrew here. You go over the brow of the hill, the circuit drops down away from you. You're braking, it's descending, you're pushing the front end through there, you flick it right, you flick it over to the left-hand side, and then you're all the way on the gas to turn number 12. You're flicking it left through there, just getting past one of the Angel Nieto bikes we were, as we take a late apex through that corner, go up the hill once again. We're on the climb. This is how much this circuit undulates, 50 metres, the undulation here at this track, and then you try and spot your braking zone in the midst of absolutely nothing to reference at all to go into turn 12.
Yeah, definitely, and then you've got the famous wall there on your left. And again, like you said, 50 metres the change around this track, which is an awful lot, and that corkscrew definitely is pretty spectacular on board as well as to watch. And much like Laguna, as you say, is fairly blind going in there, and then suddenly you're flicking the bike and it's really dropped down quite a significant amount of distance.
Well, this is where we're going to see the overtakes probably taking place for the most part in this race. The 968 metre long back straight going down in towards turn number 16. Find your braking points on the right hand side, use one of the markers as your reference, run over the curbs, flick it left, take a nice early apex through turn 16, run it a little bit wide, and then it's turn 17, spot the apex right there, clip it nice and tight, and then run it to the line. It's a very tricky corner that, but you can carry a lot of corner speed through that final turn, and it does lend itself to some very exciting racing, especially some last lap, last corner runs to the line. So that's something we should be set to expect here in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. And you can see there the grid, you can see the height of activity on the grid here as well. And you can see this man here, Dennis Onchu, 15 years old, just a couple of days ago. And he, of course, is part, as his brother, with the Red Bull KTM IO Junior team. And you can see there, of course, paying homage to Andreas Perez with the sticker on his helmet. And Dennis Onchu as well, likewise his brother, of course, part of the IO outfit. They've got that link up to Moto3, which in turn has the link to Moto2, which of course now in turn has the link to MotoGP as well. It really is probably one of the most exciting outfits to be a part of, that, knowing that there's that step for progression there. Yeah,
definitely. Like you say, it goes all the way from the bottom to the top. Does that... I don't know what the word in English is, kind of like cantera is the Spanish word, or it technically means a quarry, but that's a little bit extreme. But yeah, it's a really, really great outfit, and it's a fantastic ladder to be on. You can really progress. You've got a great different teams, obviously, but then you've got Akiayo, who's got incredible knowledge, and then KTM, obviously, such an incredibly successful manufacturer at most levels, and increasingly getting closer and closer to the front in MotoGP. And really, now this huge ladder that they've got stretching across so many classes is really something incredible to be a part of.
So it looks like there's some problems here for Bruno Iannacci, the number 88. He's not on the grid, unfortunately, for the 658 Squadra Corsa team. So some problems there for him following qualifying. Let's see exactly why that is. I'm just having a look at my notes, and there's no particular reason as to why that would be. Here's Aleix View then. View, of course, in contention for the victory here in 2017 when he was on board the Rins KTM bike. However, it all went really very, very wrong for him very, very quickly out of the final corner, and he ended up sending it straight to the scene of the accident in a very fast and frightening crash. One of the quickest places on the circuit to crash. So the riders then getting ready to depart from the grid. A 15-lap race for the Moto3 Junior World Championship, and 40 riders set to make their way down towards turn number 1. It's going to be very exciting, it's going to be very unpredictable, and it could be crucial for the championship at this stage as well. So you can see the heat haze there as well. It really is absolutely scorching here at Motorland Aragón, and this is how they line up on the grid. Barry Bautas, his first pole position, ahead of Sergio Garcia and Ralf Fernandez. Row 2, Manuel Pagliani, championship leader, ahead of Ricardo Rossi and Agora. Row 3, Dennis Onchu, ahead of Bruno Iannacci and Aleix View, although Iannacci not making the grid. Row 4 is Can Onchu, Jeremy Alcoba, and the returning Makar Yuchenko. Row 5, Wong Tananon, Ryu Garcia. Row 6 is Celestino Vietti, ahead of Carlos Tatai and Philippe Salak. Row 7, Jerry Salim, Jose Garcia, Max Koffler. Row 8 is Yari Montella, Adrian Huertas, and Sonia Chantra. More on him in just a moment. Tom Booth Amos, Charlie Nesbitt, and Izam Iqmal, the Indonesian rider for the 650 racing team, rather, on the outside of row 9. Row 10, Toledo, Cooney, and De Witt. Faber, Orgis and Acosta, Jespersen, Kawakami and Lorente are on row number 12. And then the final 2 rows of the grid, you can see Leon Orgis, Ivan Moraes and Ryan van der Laarmark. Just 39 riders making their way to the grid because, of course, we have the absence of Bruno Iannacci and also, as well, actually, Alex Ruiz as well, not making his way onto the grid. So I should mention we have had a couple of penalties that have been given following qualifying as well. We've got number 35, who is the number 35 is Tomcat Chantra, who has lost a grid position due to a race direction sanction that he received following qualifying, and also number 33, number 35 and number 37, so that's Yuki Kuni, Somkiat Chantra and then number 37 of Pedro Acosta, all being given 12 place penalties respectively for something, some incidents that happened in qualifying.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult for that junior talent team outfit, really. They're 2 of their big players. Obviously Agora still up there on the 2nd row, but yeah, a bit of I mean, obviously these penalties are given out for very good reason, but it must be a bit frustrating for them, especially Cooney obviously has had some really good form this year and really right up there, but also just coming back from injury and now with a 12 place penalty. It's not the greatest, but hopefully he'll be able to make some places up early on. Obviously they should expect to, given that they were demonstrably faster in qualifying before they were penalised, so you'd expect them to be able to just escape that group a bit quicker and get back to bit further towards the front.
Certainly so. Well, this 968-metre long back straight, you can see an absolute swarm of Moto3 riders making their way down in towards turn 16. I tell you what, it's going to be magnified times by about 50 going into that turn number 16 through there over the course of this race. That slipstream and those overtaking moves, this man here, Barry Bouters, would love to be able to just do a Leicester flag victory, but he's going to have a very uphill task, quite literally in some respects, to try and get that race.
Hey, exactly, quite literally.
It's the way of talent.
It's I think as well, these guys, like obviously the European Talent Cup guys really were impressive in how cleanly they got round that first corner. So pressure's on for these lads now. They're meant to be, you know, the next level above those guys, so they need to try and keep that turn 1 and turn 2 as clean as they can, but we'll have to see, because obviously there's an awful lot of stake, a lot of pressure, a lot to win and lose around that first apex.
So, Barry Bouters for the Realia Aventura Academy team lining up on pole position. Alongside him, Sergio Garcia and the number 23 of Ralf Fernandez. Keep an eye out for that 2nd row as well. Pagliani fighting for that championship with the leader, of course, of Ralf Fernandez on the front row of the grid. Ricardo Rossi and Agora as well. This one's for you, Andreas. Look to the top left corner of your screen. Wait for those red lights to come on. Moto3 Junior World Championship is underway, and it's a great start from pole position for the young Belgian and Barry Bouters going down towards that first corner, heading into turn number 1. Look at Ralf Fernandez looking very aggressive. He's up into 2nd place as well. Ricardo Rossi trying to fight off the retaining packers on Chu, and a couple of riders going down at the first corner. 40 riders into one was always going to be very difficult, and unfortunately it's proven to be that we'll end up with a couple of riders not making it past the first turn here. Look at Ralf Fernandez as well, very aggressive in the opening stages, and he is through into the lead just before turn 5. Whoa, no! And Pagliani goes down. Manuel Pagliani fighting for the championship is down at turn number 5. Disaster for the Italian, for the Leopard team, and that could be a very decisive moment in his 2018 campaign.
That really could. That's big drama there. Such a key player in the championship so far, and obviously in the standings, and then Fernandez as well to be in the lead. That's an absolute nightmare for Pagliani, and with one race here today for these guys, that's something he's going to have to deal with now for a couple of months.
Oh, and disaster as well. That is the number 83 of Maikon Kawakami, so he was one of the riders who was caught up in in the melee at the first corner, and that is Manuel Pagliani, the Italian then, who is absolutely beside himself following that one. He's trying to get a push start from the marshals. He's trying to bump start that Honda. They're not the easiest bikes to do, especially when you're going uphill as you are through turn 5.
Yeah, definitely. It's really can be strangely helpful if you crash on the downhill part of the track to immediately be able to get back in the race, but so often these guys, I always think if they spent a little bit less time sort of panicking and getting angry about what's happened and just concentrated on running to the bike and trying to get it back in there, they might lose a bit less time. But because obviously, you see, Marquez is a great example. As soon as he crashes, there's not really any drama, and he just goes straight for the bike and desperately try and get back in the race as quick as possible.
Speaking of drama as well, we've got Sasha De Wit and Kevin Orgist who've gone down at turn 12. There's a yellow flag then in the middle sector, so that's an unseen incident that's happened at the middle parts of the lap, just going past the wall there. So it is a very popular overtaking opportunity, and sometimes riders can just bite off a little bit more than they can chew.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully those guys are okay, and yeah, like you say, it's a classic place maybe for an incident to occur since it's such a popular place to overtake. But back at the front here we see Fernandez managing to keep that lead nicely, and it's Sergio Garcia right on his tail, and already there's a little bit of daylight there between these two and poleman Barry Baltus.
Absolutely stonking first lap as well from Tom Booth Amos, the British rider. He's up into 22nd place after starting down in 27th on the grid. So, sorry, 25th on the grid, I should say, rather. So that's very impressive from the British rider. He's actually full of he's got a throat infection. He's full of flu as well this weekend, so not feeling 100% in any way, shape or form. And he will be very much looking forward to try and get himself in points contention for this one.
Yeah, it's not been the best of the season so far for Booth Amos. So many injuries and things that seem to just keep coming at him. But at least back on track now and relatively fit, certainly in terms of the consistent wrist injuries he's kept having this season. They're hopefully both sorted now, and he should be back to full strength in that respect. And yeah, pretty close to teammate Yuki Kuni at the moment, so that's pretty good. And here we get the drama that happened at turn 12.
Yeah, we've got Ruiz, De Wit and Kevin Orgist who are all involved in an incident. The main thing is that they're all up and okay. Here's what happened. Well, you can see absolute skittles going through there, wasn't it? And somebody running off just for good measure in the foreground of your shot. So the main thing is everybody's up and okay, despite some damaged pride they'll be having at that corner. The main thing, as we say, damaged bikes as well, but they are all up and okay. Back at the front, though, meanwhile, the number 23 of Ralf Fernandez still leads the way ahead of Sergio Garcia. Look at Barry Baltus as well in third place. He's now coming under pressure as Jeremy Alcoba slips his way up the inside and gets his way through. And he'll be trying to close up the gap between these two. What Alcoba would absolutely love at the moment here, Fran, is for these two to start battling amongst one another. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, if they're battling it out at the front, there's a much bigger chance of the guys behind to just close in a little bit. But at the moment, it's a fairly sizable amount of daylight there. They're not going to gain too much from being behind them and in that slipstream. But like you say, obviously Garcia, although he's young, he's fairly seasoned by this point and has shown some great pace and racecraft this season. So he'll also be aware of that, you know, if he can't really go that much faster than Fernandez and he can keep up with them, it makes much more sense for those two guys to just try and pull away from that chasing pack and make sure at the very least it'll be a duel for the win, and therefore the worst you can come is second.
Of course, it's not only inter-team pride that these two are going to be fighting for. By that I mean, oh no, a big crash as well. Makar Yuchenko gets caught up. Was that Baltus who went down? I couldn't quite see. It was Baltus. So the reality of Inter Academy rider high sides out of turn 5. Not the first time we've seen a crash there. Yuchenko for the Max Racing team. The returning Kazakhstani rider goes down as well. He's managed to get back on as Barry Baltus here, but that is a big, big shame and not the way that he wanted his race rather, to unfold with 13 laps left.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, luckily, just behind they could avoid that incident, but Yurchenko just got caught up in that, and that's really bad luck for the rider from Kazakhstan. It wasn't really his incident, just seemed to catch him out a bit there. But at least Baltus there, you see, up and okay straight away and back in the race. Have to see if Yurchenko, what's the status on him.
Yeah, absolutely right. As you say there, Fran, we'll keep you up to date with anything that we get here in the commentary box. Your two leaders, meanwhile, still battling amongst one another. We've got confirmation on our screen that number 76, Makar Yuchenko, is up and okay. So that's really, really good to see. That's the main thing after that incident. He actually had set the fastest lap last time around as well there, Fran. That really is absolute heartbreak for Yuchenko. Yeah, definitely. That's such bad luck for him, especially with having moved back down from the World Championship. You know, it's just bad luck, and it's even worse. Like they're saying, there's only one race for these guys today, so he's just got to take that slight heartbreak into their summer break now. I should mention as well that something seems to have gone awry for Tom Booth Amos, unfortunately. He's down in 32nd on our timing screen, so whether he's had a tip down the road or whether he's had something that's gone wrong, I'm not entirely sure there. But regardless, Booth Amos, unfortunately, as we were singing his praises, talking about his really good start that he managed to have, it's all gone very wrong very quickly indeed for the British rider. He'll be hoping and more sort of looking forward to his exploits for the latter half of this 2018 season. Meanwhile, as I was saying before I interrupted myself, it's not just a matter of inter-team pride between Sergio Garcia and also between Jeremy Alcoba. There is the opportunity for the World Championship seat in the Estrella Galicia team next year that is up for grabs. One of these riders will be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting. Obviously, we've seen Alonso Lopez have some really impressive performances this season as well, straight up. So they know that they can really, you know, show what they can do at that level as well, hopefully. But it's an interesting one because obviously Alcoa was in contention. I can't speak today. Alcoa was in contention for the seat also last time, so it'll be an interesting one, I think. But Garcia seems to have the upper hand on his teammates so far this season. Obviously, he had that injury that he got in Valencia, but he bounced straight back from that and won. So super impressive. But now you can see, like you say, inter-team rivalry and a lot more at stake here, and he's really caught them up. I
think we've lost Sonia Chara from the race as well there, Fran. So disaster for the Asia Talent Team rider. He has gone down the road. There he is, just coming back onto your track. So he has managed to remount there, fortunately, for the tie-lip rider. But unfortunately, that is a big, big shame for him.
Yeah, it just adds a bit of insult to injury there after had some pretty good pace here. Obviously, it's his second year here and had some good pace this weekend and then took that 12th place penalty, and now obviously maybe just pushing a little bit too hard to try and make that ground back up again, and just lost out there.
Very sorry to say as well, things going from bad to worse for the Realia Vinta Academy team. Got a yellow flag as well at turn 14, I can see on our timing screen. But Carlos Tatai, the other Realia Vinta Academy rider, getting a jump start penalty. So he will have to ride through. And that, unfortunately, is the other Angel Nieto biker, Valix Ruiz, who started right towards the very back of the grid. And Ruiz, he's going to be ruining what happened there as he lost the front end through turn number 14.
Definitely. Wow, that was so witty.
I try my best, Fran. I've been practicing them a lot. It's been a long time since we've done CV, but I've been practicing them since then. Don't worry.
Oh dear, that was terrible, truly terrible.
So we just had the tyre sheet through from Dunlop at the halfway stage of this race. You can see there Barry Bautas' bike is now back into the pit lane. Ambient temperature out on track is 35 degrees in the air, 46 degrees on the tarmac. And this is what happened with Barry Bautas. Let's come to this just now. You can see high sides out of there, loses grip, the rear grips, and that unfortunately left nowhere for Makar Yuchenko to go. An unfortunate series of incidents there. But again, a big, big shame for Realia Vinta team. They needed something to kind of boost their morale this weekend, and that was really not where they would have wanted to have gone. But
yeah, definitely. You could see as well, Yuchenko obviously kind of coming up on that bike and thinking, okay, this is not going to work, and kind of coming off it there. But, you know, he could have gone for the Jakob Kornfeil and just hit the gas and tried to jump it.
Sent it.
I mean, just that incident worked once, therefore, you know, mathematically that means it'll work every time for every other rider, no?
Absolutely right. Can't fault your logic there, Fran. The tyre sheet, as I was saying, a lot of riders opting for actually a mixture of soft and medium compound tyres. So this could be interesting to see how this plays out over the course of the race. Sergio Garcia, he's on the soft rear compound. Ralf Fernandez likewise as well. However, Ricardo Rossi, Agora, Laceview and Canon Chu all on, Laceview rather, not Canon Chu, all on the medium compound of rear tyre. Dennis Onchu on the soft compound, Bruno Iordaci on the soft compound, likewise Canon Chu as well. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this fares. You can see number 99 rider jump start. That is, as we said, Carlos Tatai. Unfortunately, Tatai fighting in the lower parts of the top 10 in this race, but that is a big, big shame there. So he's going to have to go through the pit lane within the next few laps or so, or he'll get a back flag from race direction.
I think I can beat your earlier pun, but it's quite northern.
Go ahead.
Tatai bye.
Oh dear.
I'm very sorry. Apologies to everyone.
Yeah, I'd say you should as well after that one. Shocking. Meanwhile, back at the front, these two are knocking 7 bells out of each other, aren't they? Sergio Garcia versus Ralf Fernandez. And Fernandez at the moment, the meeting in Estrella Galicia Junior team sandwich so far. This is getting very interesting because it's KTM versus Honda. It's Spaniards all the way in the top 3. And who is going to be taking the victory? Well, at the moment, these top 3 have put quite a significant amount of daylight between themselves and Can On Chu. Unfortunately, it looks like Gerard Riou and, by the looks of things, Adrian Huertas. Is that going down the aisle? Or does somebody else? It's number 20 that's going sliding down our timing screen, which is Jose Garcia. So, yeah,
yes.
So that's the other Garcia in the grid. And that's a big shame there for Jacito Garcia as well, especially because he's had a very, very tough season so far. And Gerard Riou, that's his second crash of the weekend. Walked into the paddock yesterday morning and saw his bike in a very sorry state being wheeled back into the pit lane, unfortunately with a lot of gravel coming out the back of it. So Gerard Riou, bit of a weekend to forget for him then here at Motorland Aragón. Yellow flag at turn 5 as well. That will be due to that incident between those two riders. So we have 40 riders near enough starting this race, Fran. We've only got 27 left by my count.
Yeah, they've thinned out rather quickly there, haven't they? A bit of a dramatic start to proceedings for these guys, and especially, as I was saying, you know, obviously the ETC guys showed us how it was done. I'm quite surprised so far the Junior World Championship guys have been a little bit more crazy, but
and there's the incident,
the
aftermath of the incident. Yeah, we can see Jacito Garcia's AGR KCM just looking a little bit second-hand there. They'll just be getting that off of the circuit and out of harm's way. Of course, it is
feeling their shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Quite right. So down in towards the first corner we head. You can see there in the background Konku and Donku battling with the number 32 of Agora. It's getting very, very close indeed. The two Onchu twins are having a very good run so far in this race, and it's really what they need. It's been a bit of a learning year for them so far in 2018. We've seen they've had the pace to fight at the front end of the field, but not had the consistency.
Absolutely, it's an Asia Talent Cup party back there, just off the podium fight, and yeah, I think those guys, obviously, they've got great pedigree everywhere else they've raced. So far, this has just been a bit of a bigger step up, and it's taken them a few races to seemingly manage to settle into being able to constantly, at least not necessarily be front runners quite yet, but in that top 10 and comfortable and not making too many errors. So far both having a great race, and Chan On-Chu obviously now got the slight upper hand on his brother who had qualified in front of him, but it's always going to be an interesting one. I think they had an absolutely incredible race 2 battle last time out in the Red Bull Rookies. Just absolute like duel between just the two of them at the front, and a really, really great race at the Zaxxon Ring. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be really interesting with those guys as well as their careers go forward. They're not only brothers, but they're twins, which obviously usually means they're incredibly close. And then obviously also they're exactly the same age, so they should be going through exactly the same steps in their career at the same time. It's going to be really interesting how that goes, but pretty impressive weekend for those guys so far here.
Absolutely right. I'm a twin, but neither me nor my twin sister are motorcycle racers, unfortunately. Meanwhile, back to the battle out in front. Sergio Garcia still leads the way. And this is getting very close at the moment. These two guys just biding their time, though, for the time being. Nothing too aggressive like we saw in the European Talent Cup. It's still only at the halfway stage, really, of this race now. So probably not much call to try anything too desperate.
Yeah, definitely. I think these guys now, they'll know they've got that bit of a gap, and they'll probably be keeping a bit of an eye on that and see if they are going to get caught from behind. But if not, this is going to be our battle for the podium, and what remains to be decided is what order they will be on that podium in. So it's going to be pretty good, I think, but they're not too crazy, like you say. A few little shuffles here and there, but they all seem to have fairly similar pace. And then we can see Agora there fighting back against Chan On-Chu, and now in the head of that second group. It'll be interesting to see if one of those guys can get to the front of that group and then maybe pull them a bit closer, but it's a fairly sizable gap, so, you know, just under 2 seconds, so it would take a very impressive push from those guys to manage to bridge that.
Yeah, certainly would do, and there's still plenty of time, though, to bridge that gap. So if Agora and the two On-Chu twins decide to start working together as opposed to battling with one another, then they could be in with a chance of closing up, and they might bring the likes of Vietti Ramos and Aleix Vieux with them as well. So that would be very exciting to see. And as we said, still time to be able to do that as well, quite crucially. Alcoa just at the back of this group for the top 3, the three-way battle. So Alcoa, having had a good season so far, is Jeremy as well. Hasn't taken a victory, though, so far this season, and he would love to be able to try and turn that on his head. He's had 2 podiums so far. One when he finished in 3rd position at Valencia in the first race, and then at Catalonia last time out. He was second, sorry, 3 podiums, I should say, rather. Second in race 1, and then finished 3rd in race number 2. And at the moment, these guys still fighting for that same piece of tarmac, still just keeping things relatively calm and consistent, but again, still allowing the guys at the behind them to close up.
Yeah, they really seem to be doing just that at the moment. I think it's about a second our timing screen says between Alcoa and Agora. So they really have got the hammer down in that second group, and fairly sure they're going to start really feeling that slipstream from them as well, which is only going to help them. And you can see now Chan On-Chu taking Agora back. Maybe not the wisest thing to do. The Japanese rider has shown he's definitely got the pace to close in on those guys ahead of them. So maybe would have been better to just sit tight there. But then, of course, if Chan On-Chu doesn't think he's got the pace to be able to go with him, then obviously you've got to try and fight that rider and keep them in your group and make sure you can finish ahead of them. So we'll have to see how it goes now, but it's certainly an awful lot less daylight between the two groups than it was before. And someone to run on there, I think it was Chan On-Chu possibly. But have to see when they come back round again. Agora's back at the head of that second group again. But it was a bit difficult to see which of the KTM IO bikes it was.
Yep, unfortunately there, if it is one of the KTM IO bikes, as you say, Fran, that is going to put them out of contention. You can see they're still just fighting in amongst the mix, so if they did run off, they haven't lost too much time in that battle, but they aren't fighting with Agora for that position anymore. Ralf Fernandez, meanwhile, still leading the way now, ahead of the two Estrella Galicia Junior team bikes, and really coming into play is Agora as well. He's closed up significantly over the last couple of laps, and Agora having comfortably been the only rider who's been in the 1:59 behind them as well. So Agora having some really good pace in the mid stages of this one here, Fran. He's at a 1:59.792. If you compare that to the fastest lap of the league group, it was Ralf Fernandez on a 2:07.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive pace from Agora, and it's really good luck from his point of view that obviously I think it was Chan that did suffer that runoff. Obviously cleared that way for him again and gave him the clear track back to be able to use that pace to close in on this this front trio. So yeah, it's an impressive race from the Japanese rider. He has obviously won in this class before, but it will be interesting because the guys ahead of him are by no means slouches and very seasoned campaigners.
Well, when you say he won in this class before, Fran, let's not forget where he was when he won in this class before. Jerez 2017.
Got to be in it to win it though, haven't you?
Final corner, and he was in 4th position, came out of that final turn, and he won the race.
He did indeed. It was quite a dramatic ending there, and to be fair, I always say in it to win it, but in that case, obviously, there were 2 other people ahead of him that were taken down by pure bad luck, and only one who wasn't in it to win it by his own hand. But still, you know, it's been some good pace from Agora. He needs to get that consistency up. That's been his problem. He's had some really, really top finishes, and then races where he's crashed out and really lost out, and it's seriously dented his points total compared to his pace. So this should be another good bankable result for him, so he can really climb up the championship table to where he really should be based on his pace that he's shown this season.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking earlier on about Yurchenko and his fastest lap that he set in that race. Obviously, he hasn't managed to get going in this one following that crash that he had earlier on. However, he still does hold the fastest lap in this race on the second one. Meanwhile, should mention as well, problems for Apiwat Wongtananon. He has, unfortunately, by the looks of things, stopped and retired. He's back into the pit lane, so the Thai rider, again, a rider who has been quick on his day, has fought in and amongst the top 5, but really is another person who needs to work on his consistency quite significantly. And unfortunately, things not going well for him at all in any way, shape or form. And this 3-way battle a couple of laps ago, a couple of laps later, has now become a 5-way scrap for the race lead. You can see there Celestino Vietti Ramos. Of course, it was his teammate here last year, Dennis Foggia, who won the title at this very round. Of course, that round, of course, a little bit later in the season in 2017. But regardless, it was a very, very exciting time for them, and Ramos has really come on quite a bundle over the course of this year, and that is Sonkiet Chantra, who has bitten the dust once again. So Chantra, despite remounting after a crash, has unfortunately sent it down the road again, or stopped at turn 17 is what we have on our timing screens. Whether he's had a crash, we saw some scuffs on the leathers, but that might be due to the earlier off that he had. So we'll wait and see on that one, see whether we might get a replay before this race is indeed finished. Down the back straight though we go with the top 4 riders, top 5 riders battling for this race win. You can see there as well of Canon Chu just managing to gap his brother Dennis at the moment, just putting a bit of daylight between himself. Dennis on Chu there in 7th place with Aleix View for company behind. Yeah,
he's managed to get back past, hasn't he, after that runoff dropped into the back of that second group and even kind of split that group up. That incident for him, but he's managed to break clear of his brother again and show that good pace and start even closing down these guys. But it'll certainly help him if they shuffle like that and really get in that fight between themselves. But we'll have to see how it goes. It's been fairly calm at the front, considering, I think, with the 2 Estrella Galicia bikes and Raul Fernandez. But these 2 new guys on the scene seems to have really given it a bit of an injection. So we'll have to see how they're going to play it now. Only 5 laps to go, but that's still a lot of distance because the lap here is pretty long. It's a 5k lap, so it's still a fair way.
Absolutely. I mean, a 5k on a motorbike is only a couple of minutes long on these Moto3 machines. 5k when you're running it is about 55 if you're me. So down in towards turn number 7 we go, into that reverse corkscrew. This is where it gets very exciting because the circuit, as we said, drops away. You can't see it when you're behind the bubble going onto the bike there. We can see it on screen absolutely fine, but when you're on board one of these motorbikes, trying to find your braking point, trying to find your reference when you're battling, especially with 5 other very hungry motorcycle racers behind you, is a very, very tricky task. And you can see there Ralf Fernandez doing the best job of them all at the moment, just maintaining that lead, not succumbing to pressure from behind. Sergio Garcia, the young 15-year-old as well, just trying to sneak a wheel up the inside of Agora, who's now on the podium, but no way through there for him at the moment. So Agora doing a good job. He's got himself through into third place, and again has been working his way up over the last 5 or 6 laps or so, closing that gap down and just biding his time. But this is a very nice sort of methodical way of doing it, and you can see that Ralf Fernandez taking a long look over his shoulder and opting to actually relinquish the lead to Jeremy Alcoa on this occasion.
Yeah, it's a bit strange there. Nice relaxed look over and then lets them go almost. But Agora seems to have taken the biggest advantage from that. And also, if he shows similar pace on this lap, if he can keep that lead, he could really have a chance to break away a little bit. So should be interested in this now. He's been the fastest one around again, with 1:59.8 last time round. And there was someone with a faster lap, which was Vietti Ramos, it seems, but only by a little bit, and Agora's been doing it consistently. So he's got really great pace, the Japanese rider. Now let's see if he can keep that lead and maybe show that pace, and whether we can see that pace last to the end would be an interesting question as well.
It certainly would be. Let's see what will happen then. Agora, you can see a big look over the shoulder there for Jeremy Alcoa as well, as he dives up the inside of his teammate of Sergio Garcia. Says thank you very much. Going into turn number 5, he's through, up into second position. And now Ralf Fernandez on that KTM as well, the sole KTM battling in amongst this. In fact, actually, I apologise as well, because Vietti Ramos also on a KTM as well in 4th and 5th position. So at the moment, it's a Honda trio leading the way from the 2 KTMs. And also as well, very close behind now, is Canon Chu.
I was going to say, start the Jaws music. There's another KTM on the way. So pretty much in that battle now. Really has closed down on them fairly quickly. But the pace has dropped off quite a lot now. It was a 2:03 last time around for Agora, which is significantly less, I guess more technically, than the laps he was putting in before he was in the lead. So it's going to be an interesting tactical battle now. The likes of Canon Chu obviously not used to being in this fight at the front of the CV. Agora, yes, he's used to being there, but he's not really shown that tactical genius so far in his career in the CV to know exactly what he's doing on the last lap or where he wants to be. All of that racecraft and learning how to really get the better of your opponents is a big thing. And so far, Garcia's got a lot of wins and has shown great form this year, but he's also usually been away at the front when he's impressed. So it's going to be an interesting one, this. We've got 3 laps after this one.
Well, Agora must be sweating like the proverbial behind the helmet of that crash helmet of that motorcycle at the moment. However, his team looking very calm and confident in complete opposite to that. Meanwhile, Canon Chu really latched onto the back now. You come over the timing line, 3 laps to go for the checkered flag, and it is going to be a 6-way fight for this race victory. Alcoa dives down the inside of his teammate once again. Up into second place is Jeremy Alcoa, and now here's Canon Chu, who's got the better of Celestino Vietti Ramos as well. So Canon Chu with some very good pace in the latter stages of this one. This is brilliant to see, really, more than anything for the Red Bull KTM IO rider. Yeah,
definitely. He's on a pretty high wave of confidence at the moment with his Red Bull rookie successes. Got a big lead there, and yeah, just great to see him really showing that potential now a bit more this race weekend. Been much improved pace and consistency in the race as well. The 2 of them have shown good pace, but then quite often there's been maybe an error a bit earlier in the race, so just faded a little bit. But this weekend, really proper solid weekend, the kind you really have expected at the start of the year.
Ralf Fernandez there getting the better of Jeremy Alcoa going into that reverse corkscrew as well. So that's a very nice little bit of riding there for him. And clearly his tactics working quite well. Ralf Fernandez trying to relinquish that lead, but putting himself in a bit of a good position here to try and challenge and to take this race victory. So into turn 12 rather, for the 3rd but last time then. These riders are probably going to be ghosting a few moves, I reckon, over the next couple of laps or so before we go on to this final one. Just thinking about where they're going to try and find their way past before they actually do the move proper. Yeah,
definitely. It's always interesting to see them kind of rehearse those moves. This track maybe is not quite the same as a few others. There's a few times where you know, you really have to make the move that you would make on the last lap if you're in that position, and then see, like, am I ahead by the line? Am I significantly behind? Would this work on the last lap, etc.? But yeah, at Aragon, it can all be quite a different. Oh, getting a bit tight
I tell you
there.
what it can be. It can be Canon Chu finding his way down the inside. This is getting very close indeed, and Canon Chu is trying to find his way through into the lead. So on to the penultimate lap then here at Motorland Aragón, and Ralf Fernandez leads the way, but Agura's going for that outside line. Nothing like we saw in the European Talent Cup race there a few moments ago. Nobody getting forced out wide through that first couple of corners, but it's still getting very, very exciting nonetheless. And the top 6 trying to battle for this race victory. They're going to be thinking about, this is where they'll be thinking about planning those moves. They'll be trying to think about where they can find it, looking at their riders' weaknesses in front of them, trying to see where those opportunities are. And then on the final lap is where you can guarantee that they'll be taking place.
Yeah, definitely. It's all interesting when you get these final shuffles and people trying to make their plans for the final lap. Obviously, you know, Fernandez, maybe he thinks that he would rather be out front, and he feels confident that he can keep that pace and defend it well and really nail that exit out the final corner. But he's now back in the lead, and he looks pretty solid, I think. So far, he seems to be the guy really got it nailed on in that front group. There's nothing too dramatic, just a consistent pace, consistently there. Aggressive when needed to be, but nothing too extreme. I think it's going to be a challenge for these guys to beat him. Well,
I'm just having a look at the top 6 lap times last time around, and they were all lapping within 0.3 of a second of each other. Canon Chu trying to dive his way down the inside as the Estrella Galicia rider. I think that was Sergio Garcia who was trying to find his way through there. No, apologies, it was Jeremy Alcoba, in fact, who's up into second place. Garcia, his teammate, right at the back of this little gaggle as well. And trying to pull the pin is Ralf Fernandez then coming onto this final lap here, Fran. He's just trying to find that bit of daylight now as well.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Fernandez has made a decision. Now might be the time to make that break. But obviously they've now got the slipstream on this back straight. We'll have to see. I don't think he's going to be able to break them too easily, to be honest. He's got good pace and, yeah, showing some solid form, but I don't think it's going to be enough to really get the advantage he's going to need going on to that final lap.
It is going to be a very exciting final lap, this one as well. So going out of the final corner of turn 17, 5 kilometres from home here at Motorland Aragón, 1 lap remaining. And who is going to take the checkered flag in that lap's time as well? They go past the lap rider of Tom Booth Amos, down towards that first corner for the final time. Look at Agora trying to send it down the inside. He's up into 3rd place, but couldn't quite find a way through. And now it's all about trying to keep your nose clean, trying to not get involved in those battles if you're out in front, to try and keep everything under control, keep it calm, to not get involved in those little scraps. Getting involved in the scraps further back is the number 13 of Celestino Vietti Ramos, who gets the better of Sergio Garcia once again. But this now is where it really is going to count, where the circuit begins to open up.
Yeah, definitely. I'm quite surprised that Garcia has found himself in that position now on this last lap. He needs to do some serious work if he wants to threaten for the podium. But at the moment, Agora just seems to be able to hang in with those 2 guys, but obviously Fernandez still in the driving seat. Alcoba now looking pretty racy right behind him.
No moves made through the reverse corkscrew, and completely unsurprisingly as well. So into the left-hander, which follows, and down in towards turn 12. That's where surely we'll see the first moves being made on this final lap. But is anybody going to be close enough to try and challenge Ralf Fernandez? They're going to be close enough behind. We look at the Angel Nieto team, and we can look as well at Agora trying to find his way through as Canon Chu gets the better of Celestino Vietti Ramos once again through the right-hander of turn 13 onto that back straight, the front end wobbling for Agora. On Chu trying to send it down the inside, but can't quite manage to make the move stick. On Chu's out wide as well. Will that compromise his drive onto that back straight? Is it going to cost him victory here as well? What about Ralf Fernandez? He's leading the way. Jeremy Alcoba is in 2nd place. Can they do anything to stop the charge of that KTM? They've got just 2 more corners from home. They're all over to the left-hand side of the track. Alcoba has to go for the outside line. Can he outbrake him into that final turn? Here comes Agora as well, and it's Alcoba in front at the final turn. This is going to be very exciting, but he runs it wide. Here comes Fernandez. Once again, Ralf Fernandez goes to the line. It's going to be a drag to the finish. Who's going to get it? It's going to go the way of Ralf Fernandez by just 6 thousandths of a second. What a race! Absolutely brilliant. Jeremy Alcoba finishes in 2nd place, and Canon Chu miraculously gets a podium in 3rd position. What a finish, what a race here in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. What a brilliant result for this man, Ralf Fernandez, extending that championship lead, putting all of his cards on the table right at the very end of that one, and it paid off beautifully for the Spaniard. Take a bow, you deserve it, my friend. Absolutely brilliant. Surely he is going to be in contention for the World Championship this year. Surely he's going to be a future World Champion in many years to come as well. And you can see there the riders just stopping on their cooling down lap to get the flags, of course, in memory of their lost colleague of Andreas Perez, of course, just paying tribute to the 14-year-old. Really, really good to see that. And everybody stopping, of course, on that slow down lap just to pick up a flag as well. Jeremy Alcoba finishes in second place, 0.006 of a second to the line. I cannot emphasize how exciting that was. Absolutely brilliant stuff. A stunning, stunning race. And Canon Chu as well. Well, he timed it brilliantly as well, did he not? Going to third position on the line. We've just got a confirmation on our timing screens as well that video finish is in progress, just to confirm the confirmation of that in case there is some kind of a mistake on the timing screens. So let's keep an eye on that one. Let's see what happens. And we'll give you confirmation of everything. But according to what we have on our screens at the moment, it is this man here, the number 23 of Ralf Fernandez, who has taken an absolutely brilliant second victory of the season. Also makes it as well his fourth podium of this year, including that win, of course. So he will be very pleased if that is the case. But let's wait and see. Let's just get final confirmation from race direction that that is indeed the result. But it was absolutely brilliant, was it not? A great way to end the race, going to the line with these riders. And that is exactly what we want to see in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. Exactly why these guys are the stars of tomorrow. Because that racing is just so exciting. It hones their racecraft. It gets them prepared for the World Championship, which is, of course, still a complete other level, really, more than anything. But it does just make it so exciting where you see these battles, these riders fighting, honing their racecraft, learning their trade, and then they go ready and prepared into the World Championship proper after a couple of seasons fighting here. And this man here, Ralf Fernandez, after what's been a very challenging couple of years, I think it's fair to say, for the Angel Nieto team here in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. Let's not forget, last year here, they were riding a Mahindra. Ralf Fernandez had an absolutely torrid 2017 campaign. And he's managed to get himself a second victory. Now they've changed over to KTM machinery. And another KTM, of course, on the podium was Canon Chu. A brilliant, brilliant performance. Here's the video finish to the line, then. Well, this will slow down, surely, to the line. Let's have a look and see if we can just piece together at 0.006 of a second. Oh, we needed it to stop, really, there over the line, didn't we? Because it was just so close. Here is Jeremy Alcoba, then. What a great performance from Alcoba. Brilliant stuff for him. They'll be thrilled with that there at the Strade Galicia Junior team. And Ralf Fernandez, well, he's saying, what do I need to do? What a performance. Bowing in front of his fans, bowing in front of his team as well. And he did absolutely everything he needed to. He did everything right. There wasn't anything that was even remotely questionable. And you can see just what it means to team and to the rider following that one. Stunning performance. Stunning. Nico Tirol in there, as well as various members of the Angel Nieto team. So let's get the confirmation of those results then. You can see Ralf Fernandez takes the victory from Jeremy Alcoba, 0.006 of a second ahead of the Spaniard. Canon Chu in third place, Agora inside the top four. Brilliant performance to the line. The top five separated by just 0.005 of a second. You can see there Sergio Garcia just missed out. Denison Chu was a bit of a way back with Aleix View and Philippe Salak inside the top 9. Yari Montella for the 658 Squadra Corsa team completed the top 10 ahead of Yuki Kuni, Bruno Arachi, Pedro Acosta, Marc Garcia and Max Koffler, your final point scorers. Then it was Jerry Salim, Alex Toledo, Adrian Huertas inside the top 18. Charlie Nesbitt inside the top 19, the top Briton in that race, so that's a good performance for Nesbitt. They've been having all sorts of problems getting that bike set up this season, so good to see them fighting in the top 20 after what's been a very challenging year for Charlie Nesbitt, the young Briton from Swindon. His teammate, though, Jeremy Alcoba, on the rostrum, actually set the fastest first and third sectors on that final lap. Anyway, race winner, Ralf Fernandez, is down in Parc Ferme with Fran Wild. Let's see what he has to say.
So, Raul, it was an incredible race there and an incredible victory you've taken. And obviously, after you've just been in the World Championship as well, and in the Championship, also an important victory. What can you tell us?
For respect for Andreas, I don't speak English. I'm sorry, but I understand my opinion, okay? Bueno, lo que he dicho, no quiero hablar en inglés por respeto a Andreas. Pienso que ha sido una carrera muy emocionante, afianzar el liderato, sabía que podía ganar. Esta mañana el warm-up tenía un ritmo increíble y bueno, ¿qué más? Esto por Andreas y nada, darle a su padre bueno, todo el ánimo posible y bueno, que corremos por él y de todo corazón. Muchas gracias al equipo también. Hemos hecho un trabajo de 10 y sabía que bueno, podía engañarles un poco de estrategia y bueno, estoy contento y nada, darle las gracias a todo el equipo, mira, estoy temblando aún y bueno, a toda la familia.
Ralf Fernandez, an absolutely brilliant race then for him. And I'm sure we'll get a translation from Fran when she gets back into the commentary box as well. Her Spanish is far better than mine. Anyway, it was Barry Boutus who started on pole position, and he led his way in towards that first corner as well. A couple of riders didn't make it past that first turn, unfortunately. It was always going to be difficult, 40 riders going in towards a 90-degree left-hander, and so it turned out to be. Meanwhile, Ralf Fernandez soon hit the front. Ahead of him was, just behind him rather, was Sergio Garcia. It looked like it would be a two-way scrap for the race win for a long period of time. However, further back there was more drama. 3 riders getting sent down the road and 1 going straight into the car park as well. Meanwhile, at the front, it was still Fernandez versus Sergio Garcia. Big drama as well for Fernandez's teammate, Alex Ruiz, who unfortunately sent it into the gravel trap. Big shame for Ruiz. He's had some good pace so far this weekend. Meanwhile, Garcia allowed his teammates of Jeremy Alcoba to close up in the mid-stages of that one. And whilst they were all battling, Ramos and the number 32 of Agora also fancied a bit more of the action. And likewise as well, Canon Chu was closing that deficit. Fernandez, he let the number 52 of Alcoba past. Would it prove to be an inspired move? You can bet your bottom dollar it was. And going down in towards that final corner, you can see how Agora hit the front of the race for the first time. The KTM of Fernandez opting for that outside line, just trying to see how he would hold on through there, and perhaps just trying to bide his time to see what it would be like on the final lap going through there, if that was indeed the case. Meanwhile, Onchu soon came into the battle. He was up inside the podium contention, and it got very, very hairy indeed. You can see Agora was leading the race at this particular stage. Out of the final corner, though, it was Ralf Fernandez, an absolutely brilliant race as they came over the timing line. And he was out in front, but for how long would that be? Jeremy Alcoba very close behind, Agora in 3rd position at this point as well. Don't forget about Celestino Vietti Ramos for the BR46 Riders Academy. He was also in amongst the mix, but never really looked like a podium contender. Going into that final corner, once again though, it was still at this point the Estrella Galicia rider of Alcoba leading. However, he went slightly wide. That allowed Ralf Fernandez to go through, and to the line it was always going to be a drag race. 6,000ths of a second separating the top 2. Ralf Fernandez taking his 2nd win of the 2018 season, and in turn extending that championship advantage. An absolutely brilliant performance from him. Of course, 2nd place in that race, Jeremy Alcoba. 3rd, Canon Chu. And a very important story in that one to mention as well, if you didn't catch the start of it. Manuel Pagliani, the nearest championship contender to Ralf Fernandez going into this weekend, not scoring any points, unfortunately, due to crashing out on the opening lap of the race. So, big shame there for Manuel Pagliani. And does that throw the ball into Ralf Fernandez's court? Well, you can certainly bet it does, with just a few rounds remaining of the 2018 season. Angel Nieto team takes their trophy, and you can see there that Canon Chu, a brilliant podium for the Turkish rider. Celebrated his birthday, of course, just a few days ago, and that is, of course, his first podium in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. Not this man's first podium in any way, shape or form. Sergio Garcia, he's been a regular visitor to that this year, 2 times on the top step. Sorry, Jeremy Alcoba, I should say, rather. That, in fact, is his 3rd visit to the podium so far this year. And it's Ralf Fernandez's 2nd time on the top step in 2018, and he even gets a bit of free petrol as well to take home with him. Well, he gets a check to take home with him. Not quite sure he's going to fit that in the car on the way home, but there we are. That's his problem, not ours. And anyway, it's time for then the Spanish national anthem for team and rider.
Muy bien, aplausos.
Ralf Fernandez and the Angel Nieto team on top here at Motorland Aragón. What a brilliant race, and great to see the top three there, all paying tribute, of course, to Andreas Perez. A race really that was always going to be in memory of their fallen colleague, and so good to see them on the podium, of course, with that flag as well. And Ralf Fernandez, of course, in that post-race interview, dedicating that victory to Andreas. And you can see there the championship standings. Ralf Fernandez does finish on top then, and extends his championship advantage. It was 3 points going into this round. It now sits at 28 points. So that is quite a significant advantage he will have going into the next round of the championship in a couple of months' time. Alcoa, he is 41 points behind the championship charge. Kind of getting out of contention now, really. Likewise, Sergio Garcia. So the two Estrella Galicia boys are going to have a lot of work to do to try and overhaul the top two in the latter part of this championship. You can see there Canon Tube with that podium. He moves up into 13th in the standings from 16th, so up 3 positions there for Can. He'll be pretty pleased with that. Apiwat Wongtananon not scoring points, sadly. It's been a difficult couple of rounds for Apiwat Wongtananon. Charlie Nesbitt as well, down there in 21st position. And he will be hoping for some better fortunes in the latter half of this season. You see that Bruno Iarachi sadly didn't manage to make that race for one reason or another. Not quite sure as to why that was, but regardless, a big disappointment there for Bruno. He'll be trying to get himself fighting at the sharper end of the field towards the latter half of this season, as we say. So then, a brilliant race in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. An absolutely fantastic final lap, final corner as well. Really doesn't get any closer than that. We've got Moto2 Race 2 along the way very, very shortly here at Motorland Aragón. Stand by, because it's on the way in just a couple of moments.